Here I'm going to demonstrate how to use some plastic connectors to connect a 2-conductor 22 gauge cable to a 2-conductor 18 gauge cable. So you can see here on the cable jackets, we can see we have a 2-conductor 22 gauge, and on the other one we have a 2-conductor 18 gauge. All right. So first we're going to use this IWISS SN-28B crimper to help with this job. So first we want to strip the cable jacket. So I'm just going to cut a little length of this cable off, of this cable jacket. And I'm going to cut off these fiber strands here. All right, next we're going to prepare the 22 gauge cable. All right. So now we have these two cables that we want to join together. So here we're going to use a 2-pole connector, because you can see we have a red and a black. So we need 2 connections to join these. All right, so first thing we want to do, or the next thing we want to do here, is to strip the wire insulation off, because we have to crimp on these pins and connectors. So I have my wire stripper set to, I think it's at 2 millimeters. So this is a very small length of exposed wire that we need here. So I'm just going to start with this one first. All right, and let's say we're going to install the pins on the end of the 22 gauge cable. So this is a pin, so you can see that, all right, the pin goes into the socket like so. So that's what's going to make our electrical connection. But first we need to crimp the pins and sockets on the ends of the wires, and then we need to install the connectors onto these crimped pins and sockets. All right, so in order to do the crimping, we're going to use this tool. And for a 22 gauge and an 18 gauge cable, we're going to use this middle location here. All right, and the way to do this, you can see that the half of the profile closest to us it's actually a wider profile than the other side. All right. So the best reference, I guess, is to have the IWISS logo facing you when you hold the crimper like this. All right, and we're going to put the pin through the opening here from the back side. I'm going to rest it on, so you can see I'm making a connection, I'm making a contact here, and then I'm going to pull it back, so you can see I'm kind of sliding it along the opening, and I'm going to pull it back until I feel that rear profile that's going to keep the connector from sliding back any further. Now I'm going to close the teeth here until it clicks once. So that's just a way to hold the pin in place. So the next thing we want to do, now that we have the pin in place, we need to put the wire inside. And this is going to be a little difficult to show. But you can see if I stick the wire all the way through, that's too far. So you need to find the correct depth All right, and we're going to go about there, and I'm going to show you why this is the correct depth after I finish the crimp. All right, so I'm going to have it be right about there, and I'm going to crimp down all the way until the handle won't go any further, and then release. So here we have, this is a good crimp. So you can see that if we look at a pin that hasn't been crimped yet, it's got two sets of tabs here. All right, both of these are being closed down by the crimper. That's why there's the two different profiles inside. And the furthest one out, let me line these up so you see what we're looking at. So this is what, so this taller tab, this is the one that actually is crimping around the insulation, and the shorter tab is the one that actually crimped around the exposed wire itself, okay, the stripped wire. So that's pretty good. You can see that this is kind of what it's going to look like when it's crimped. So it's actually holding on tight to the insulation, and then it's crimped very well onto the exposed wire. And if I pull it really hard, it's not going anywhere. And you should, after you do your first crimp, you should pull it like that just to make sure it won't slip off. Now, if you're gonna crimp a 24 gauge wire, you're probably going to want to end up using the smallest opening here, the one on the left on the screen right now. For our application, we're never going to use the one on the right. So for 22 gauge and larger, which is, again, American wire gauge is inversely proportional to wire size. So this crimper, I'm sorry, the pins and the sockets that you have they can accommodate 4 different wire sizes: 18 gauge, 20 gauge, 22, and 24. So 18 is the largest, 24 is the smallest. So on a 24 gauge wire, you may have to use this opening on the left, all right, this one here. And you just want to test that if you're doing a 24 gauge wire after you make the crimp to pull on it. If you do use the middle setting, pull on it hard. If it comes off, then that tells you that you need to use this furthest left opening. All right, so I'm just going to continue doing the same thing with the other wires. All right, so we have our wire stripped, and then I'm going to crimp it. All right, that looks good. You want to make sure that the insulation is not going underneath the tab that is crimping the wire itself, the exposed wire. Okay, so this one is prepared. Now we're going to put the socket on these two sockets on the 18 gauge. All right, so let's strip that. Take the socket, and you do this exactly the same way. All right, because that was a bigger wire, it did take a little more force to crimp it. But that middle opening is still the correct one. Okay, that looks good. And then strip this last one. Okay, so you'll get a feel for how far you have to insert the wire in order to get, the goal really is to make sure that this outer tab crimps firmly around the insulation and the inner tab crimps firmly around that exposed length of wire. And so you can see why it's very important to set the wire stripper at the correct depth. I think here I have it set 2 clicks, sorry, yeah, 2 clicks from the end, from as far as it will go. So that looks like maybe 2 millimeters, but you might have to experiment a little. All right, so now we have both ends prepared, and of course we could just insert them like that, but then we would have exposed electrical conductors. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the actual connector housings, they call them, on the sockets and the pins. All right, so there's little numbers. I'm not sure if you can see that in the video here. Not sure, but you'll be able to see it in person. In this case, the one on the left, and by the way, this will connect. So these mating ends here, they can only connect. You can't turn them around and insert them. They have to match each other, and they just connect like that. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the socket end on the smaller housing. All right. And I'm going to say that the number 1. All right. So it's a little hard to see. So number 1 is the lower hole, and number 2 is the upper hole. So we're going to say that red is going to be number 1 and black is going to be number 2. So I just insert them both in here, and one at a time. I'm only holding the red wire right now, and I'm going to push until I hear a click. It's a little bit of a click. You'll feel it, and then you can pull back on it, and it's very secure in there. All right, and then do the same thing with the black one. So I'm going to push it in and wait till I hear the little click. Now they're both in there very solid, and you can see there's our sockets. And then just do the same thing for the other one with the pins. And again, look for the numbers. So actually this one doesn't have numbers, so we're going to have to make sure we line it up correctly. So in this case, this upper, you can see the red is the upper and the black is the lower. So if I spin this around, make sure I have red on the upper end and black on the lower. Do the same thing. Push it in until I feel the little click. I think you might have heard it there. Okay. So now we have our pin end correctly installed, and then it's just a matter of inserting these into each other. All right, so now we have a good, solid, it's not waterproof, so only use this in indoor applications, but this is a good solid electrical connection, and you can disconnect it, so that's convenient. All right, so that's how you use this SN-28B crimper to install the pins and sockets for these plastic connectors here.